Hey everyone, welcome back to the podcast. Today we're diving into an interesting topic. How do you know this is an underdeveloped country? Specifically, we'll be talking about Nepal, the incredible country that's tucked right between the giants China and India. We're going to take an informed look at why Nepal is considered an underdeveloped nation. We'll cover the data, but also share some insights you might only get by really digging in. First off, let's quickly chat about what makes a country developing anyway. In general, developing countries have moderate economic growth, limited industry, lower incomes, and inconsistent access to things like good healthcare and quality education. Alright, so I'm going to start off with the economic stuff, GDP per capita. Basically, that's how much wealth each person generates on average in a country. For Nepal, it's about $1,400 according to the World Bank. That's pretty low compared to the developed countries, which usually float around the ballpark of $12,000 per capita. Why is it so low in Nepal? Well, mainly because the economy relies heavily on agriculture and remittances from Nepalis working overseas. Both these sources can be pretty unpredictable, leaving the country vulnerable to economic shocks. Next, we have the HDI, or Human Development Index. Think of HDI as a way to measure the overall quality of life, factoring life expectancy, education, and income. Nepal scores about 0.602, putting in the medium category. It's improved over the years thanks to some solid education and healthcare programs, but there's still a long way to go, especially compared to developed nations that typically score above a 0.8. Income levels in Nepal are also worth mentioning because they highlight a stark inequality. Roughly 25% of the population lives below the poverty line, and the divide between urban and rural areas is pretty clear. Kathmandu, for example, is a thriving economic city, while many rural areas remain quite poor, lacking in opportunities, infrastructure, and jobs. When we talk about industrialization, it's also pretty limited in Nepal. Only about 15% of the GDP comes from industry. So you may ask, what's holding back industrial growth? Infrastructure challenges mainly. We're talking poor road networks, frequent power shortages, limited access to advanced technologies, and tough geographic conditions like mountains everywhere. According to the Asian Development Bank, energy shortages alone significantly hold back productivity, limiting the potential for industrial growth and diversification. Fun fact, in Nepal is the Himalayan mountain range, home to some of the highest mountains in the world, like Mount Everest, which is the highest mountain in the world. Alright, I'm going to shift gears real quick to social indicators. Let's talk healthcare. Healthcare access in Nepal is really uneven. Major cities like Kathmandu and Pokhara have decent healthcare, modern hospitals, pretty skilled professionals, But once you step into rural areas, it's a totally different story. Many places lack basic medical services. People often have to walk hours or even days for simple medical care, something the World Health Organization, or WHO, has extensively documented. Education is another critical area. Nepal's literacy rate has improved over recent years and is currently sitting around 71%. However, there's still a significant gap between cities and rural communities. Urban schools are typically better funded, staffed, and equipped. Meanwhile, while rural schools often struggle with inadequate resources, poorly trained teachers, and infrastructure issues. UNICEF points out these issues as the main reasons kids in rural areas often drop out early, limiting their future opportunities. Life expectancy is currently around 72 years in Nepal, reflecting gradual progress driven by better healthcare, nutrition, and vaccinations. However, rural communities face persistent issues like malnutrition, insufficient maternal and child health care, and a lack of clean drinking water, and sanitation-related illnesses because of the lack of clean drinking water. Frequent natural disasters, like earthquakes and floods, also disproportionately impact rural populations, further complicating consistent improvements. Now, I want to talk about people that have visited Nepal. If you've ever talked to anybody who's ever traveled to Nepal, you've probably heard the stark contrast. Visitors often notice modern, vibrant cities like Kathmandu alongside villages struggling with basic needs like clean water, reliable electricity, and proper roads. Aid workers constantly highlight the deep-rooted poverty and reliance on farming, but visitors also emphasize the incredible resilience and warmth in the Nepali people, which gives hope for future progress and sustainable development. When we put all these pieces together, it's clear why Nepal sits firmly in the developing category. The economic indicators, low GDP per capita, reliance on unstable income sources like remittances and limited industry, illustrate significant economic vulnerabilities. On the social side, uneven access to healthcare and education creates lasting developmental challenges. But what's causing these issues? Geography, for starters. Nepal's mountainous terrain makes infrastructure projects incredibly difficult and expensive. Add political instability and the frequent natural disasters to the mix, and you've got a complicated situation that hinders steady growth. So what could Nepal do to tackle these challenges? A few things come to my mind. Encouraging foreign direct investment, or FDI, is essential. This could help diversify the economy and boost industry. Investing in infrastructure, better roads, reliable energy sources would significantly enhance economic productivity and resilience. Education-wise, I think they should target rural areas with initiatives like better teacher training, better school resources, and incentives to stay in school could dramatically narrow the educational gap. But we need to send in aid to Nepal because Nepal cannot do it by themselves. On healthcare, adopting innovative solutions like telemedicine and mobile healthcare units could drastically improve accessibility in remote areas. These solutions not only leverage technology but also directly address geographical constraints. In a nutshell, Nepal clearly fits within the underdeveloped country category, but there's real potential for it. With effective governments, targeted economic reforms, and ongoing international support, Nepal can make significant strides forward. It's all about leveraging what we have and overcoming geographical and social barriers. Well, that's going to be it for me today. Thank you guys for listening, and I hope this informed you on some of the stuff that's going on in Nepal. If you want to get active and help Nepal yourself, I would recommend 3 websites. You could donate to an NGO. There's also www.wehelpnepal.org or helpnepal.website. These all will give money straight to the underdeveloped communities, and that's if you want. Thank you again, and goodbye.